Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Billionaire mother sees black waitress feed her blind daughter, and her life changes forever. Elizabeth Morgan was, in the eyes of the world, the epitome of success. At 42, she ruled with an iron fist over one of Wall Street's most powerful investment funds, Morgan Capital, which managed billions of dollars across the globe. Her name was synonymous with excellence in financial circles, her reputation earning her the respect, even fear, of her peers. She was often seen in trade magazines, impeccably dressed, with a steady smile and piercing gaze, as if ready to take on the world. Her Manhattan penthouse was a luxurious sanctuary, perched on the 56th floor of a skyscraper overlooking Central Park. The light-filled living room offered panoramic views of the city, the endless ballet of yellow taxis, and the twinkling lights of the night. Glass walls, designer furniture, contemporary artwork, everything here reflected material success. Yet this opulent setting couldn't mask the loneliness that gnawed at Elizabeth more and more each day. Because behind this perfect facade was Amelia, her 6-year-old daughter. Amelia had been born blind, a diagnosis that fell like a bombshell a few hours after her birth. Since that day, Elizabeth's life had changed dramatically. She had gradually abandoned all other personal or social ambitions to devote herself entirely to this fragile child. Every minute, every cent was invested in the search for innovative treatments, in consulting the best specialists in neurology and ophthalmology. She had adapted their apartment to make it perfectly safe, with adapted technological aids, sensory toys, and books in Braille, but nothing could erase the immense weight of uncertainty. Elizabeth and Amelia's daily life was punctuated by a relentless medical schedule, appointments with the ophthalmologist, occupational therapy sessions to develop Amelia's fine motor skills, and orientation and mobility exercises with specialists to help her navigate the world without sight. Elizabeth also surrounded herself with specialized educators so that her daughter could attend a special school, where she would learn to live fully despite her disability. But the mother behind the businesswoman felt a growing isolation. Despite Amelia's visible progress, Elizabeth felt she was failing to fill a void, the intimate, simple bond she so ardently desired with her daughter. The rigorous management of her disability had created a relationship filled with care and organization, but little spontaneity. She felt she was talking more to the doctors than to her daughter, seeing the little girl through the cold prism of her limitations, rather than as a child full of life and dreams. This loneliness was reinforced by her social circle, which often avoided discussing Amelia or didn't know how to react to the situation. Invitations were rare, and the extended family had little understanding of this life as a couple in the heart of a bustling world. Elizabeth found herself trapped in this gilded luxury, with her professional success on one side and her maternal worries on the other. She had everything, but it had become a gilded prison. She had unlimited money and means, but lacked time for herself and, paradoxically, to create that authentic bond with her daughter that she so desired. Evenings in glass towers and business meetings could not replace a simple walk in the park or a moment of shared laughter. Every time Amelia went to bed, as she gently placed her hand on her cheek to say goodnight, Elizabeth wondered, how can I give her a world where she can truly thrive, without feeling different? How can I reinvent myself, so that I am no longer just a protective and distant mother, but a real presence in her life? These questions haunted her, and it was in this whirlwind of emotions, mixed with love and anguish, that an unexpected encounter would occur, a humble gesture that would turn her whole life upside down. An afternoon like any other, but one that was going to change everything. That Saturday, the spring sun bathed the streets of Manhattan in a soft, comforting light. After weeks of medical appointments and intensive rehabilitation sessions, Elizabeth Morgan felt the urgent need to offer her daughter Amelia a moment of respite, away from the cold walls of offices and laboratories. She chose a chic downtown restaurant, Le Jardin de Verre, renowned for its elegant and peaceful atmosphere, attentive service, and inventive gourmet cuisine. The place was a refuge in the bustling city, immaculate tablecloths, well-spaced tables, and soft light filtering through huge bay windows overlooking a secret garden. For Elizabeth, this outing was not simply a lunch, it was a parenthesis of humanity, an attempt to create a joyful and simple memory with her daughter, a moment where Amelia could simply be a child, without handicaps, without constraints. For her part, Jasmine Williams was starting her afternoon shift. At 28, Jasmine was a young woman with a sweet face and bright eyes, but marked by life. She had been working as a waitress at this restaurant for 3 years, a stable but demanding job. Every tip was precious because she had to support her ailing mother and her little brother, still in school, in their modest Brooklyn apartment. Jasmine grew up in a difficult environment. Raised by a courageous single mother, she had to learn resilience and responsibility early on. Her lifelong dream was to become a nurse, to help those who suffered, like her mother. She devoted her rare free time to studying, hoping to secure a scholarship to university. That day, Jasmine was assigned to Elizabeth and Amelia's table. As soon as she approached, her gaze immediately fell on the little girl. Amelia looked fragile, a little lost, clumsily holding a spoon in her trembling hands. Jasmine was familiar with these kinds of hesitant gestures. She had often helped children and the elderly eat, to feel safe. She noticed the frustrated expression on Amelia's face as she desperately tried to coordinate her hands to get the food to her mouth. The girl's frustration was palpable, and Elizabeth, standing nearby, watched, unsure how to intervene. Without missing a beat, Jasmine gently knelt beside the little girl. Her voice, soft and reassuring, broke the silence. "Let me help you, okay?" she whispered, gently taking the spoon from Amelia's hands. With innate tenderness, Jasmine began to feed the little girl. She adapted her gestures to Amelia's slowness and trembling, speaking softly, almost humming a soothing little tune, like an improvised lullaby. Amelia then looked up in surprise, her eyes wide open at Jasmine, though she couldn't see anything. A bright, shy but genuine smile crossed her face. It was the first genuine expression of joy Elizabeth had seen on her face in weeks, maybe even months. Elizabeth stood there frozen, her eyes filled with tears, breathless from what she had just witnessed. This young woman, a simple waitress, had unwittingly given her a lesson in humanity and love. This humble gesture, seemingly insignificant to many, resonated within her like a powerful echo. How, with all her wealth, influence, and expertise, could she have forgotten the true power of compassion? She then remembered all the medical appointments, the strategies, the figures, the technological advances to which she had devoted her time, without ever daring to simply Beth Amelia. The image of Jasmine, kneeling, smiling, humming softly to soothe a child's fear, swept away everything Elizabeth thought she knew about help and care. When the meal was over, Elizabeth beckoned Jasmine to her table. Still heartbroken, she gave her a warm, sincere smile. "I wanted to thank you, really, for what you did for Amelia. You have no idea how much it means to me." Jasmine, a little surprised, blushed slightly but replied gently. "That's normal, madam. I grew up with a little brother with a disability, and I've always wanted to help children who need a little extra attention. Even though my life hasn't always been easy, I believe everyone can make a difference." Elizabeth, touched, felt a bridge being created between their worlds, a bridge made of shared vulnerability. "Do you often help children like Amelia?" she asked curiously. "Yes, in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, I work with a group of young people with various disabilities. We organize activities and try to support them. It's not always easy, but it's important." Elizabeth felt a deep admiration for this woman who, despite her own difficulties, devoted her energy to improving the lives of others. "You inspire me, Jasmine. I think I should learn to see life differently. Perhaps you could help me understand what it really means to be a companion." They then exchanged more personal words. Elizabeth dared to reveal her doubts, her fears, her sense of isolation. Jasmine listened attentively, without judgment, with sincere empathy. For the first time in a long time, Elizabeth felt heard, understood, and less alone. Their bond, born from a simple act of tenderness, paved the way for an unlikely but profound friendship. In this chic Manhattan restaurant, two women from very different backgrounds had just formed a bond that would change their lives forever. As the weeks passed, a gentle and unexpected routine developed between Elizabeth Morgan and Jasmine Williams. What began as a simple acknowledgement of a kind gesture gradually transformed into something larger, more intimate, more transformative. Elizabeth, accustomed to contracts, figures, and icy investor meetings, discovered another language with Jasmine, that of the heart. They met over coffee, in parks, sometimes even outside Amelia's special needs school. Their conversations were no longer those of a boss and an employee, but of two women who, despite their opposing backgrounds, shared a common sensibility and a more humane vision of the world. One morning, after attending a sensory play session with Amelia, Elizabeth turned to Jasmine, emotion in her voice. "You have a gift, Jasmine. You bring my daughter something that neither money nor the best specialists could give her. You offer her your presence, your light. I want to help you go further." Jasmine looked at her, surprised. "Me? Go further?" "Yes. You dream of becoming a nurse. I want to offer you a full scholarship. Not a loan. Not a contract. Just a chance." Tears welled up in Jasmine's eyes. For years, she'd been juggling her job, family responsibilities, and unfinished studies due to lack of funds. What Elizabeth was offering was more than financial support, it was validation of her worth, of her future. A few weeks later, Elizabeth did much more. Inspired by conversations she had with Jasmine about the glaring inequalities in care for children with disabilities from disadvantaged backgrounds, she launched Billionaire Foundation. The name came from Amelia, his little star in the darkness. This foundation was not intended to be a traditional charity, but a human project, rooted in direct action, psychological support, medical equipment, sensory stimulation workshops, parental support, help for single mothers, everything that Jasmine had once dreamed of offering to her community. And so naturally, Jasmine became the face and voice of the project. A warm and genuine ambassador, she spoke simply about what she saw on the ground, her childhood memories, and the children forgotten in the narrow corridors of poorly equipped public schools. The media quickly took an interest. The contrast between the billionaire and the former waitress, now partners in a common cause, captivated the public's attention. But beyond the media coverage, a profound transformation was taking place. Elizabeth, for the first time in years, felt aligned with herself. What she was doing made sense. She was no longer running a business to generate profits, but a mission to spread compassion. As for Jasmine, she completed her nursing courses with flying colors. She excelled in clinical placements, where her gentleness and instincts earned the admiration of the professors. The little waitress from working-class Brooklyn gradually became an accomplished, dignified, and respected woman. And at the center of this evolution was Amelia. The little girl, once withdrawn, was opening up to the world. She laughed more. She asked questions. She loved feeling Jasmine's hand in hers, recognizing her voice among others. Jasmine had become much more than an assistant or a nanny. She was a friend, a big sister, a stable, gentle, luminous presence. Elizabeth saw her daughter's progress, day after day, and finally understood a simple truth. His true wealth had never lain in his stock investments or his luxury apartments, but in these suspended moments. A smile from Amelia. An unexpected burst of laughter. An outstretched hand. In these moments of tenderness, humanity, transmission. Years later, the Lumiere Foundation had become much more than a philanthropic initiative. It was a national movement. A living, vibrant network, driven by a simple but revolutionary vision: every child, regardless of disability or social background, deserves to grow up with dignity, love, and hope. In more than 20 American states, the foundation had opened reception and stimulation centers, launched adapted educational programs, funded scholarships for low-income families, equipped public schools with sensory equipment, trained specialized educators, and educated thousands of citizens about the realities of invisible disabilities. On the streets of Detroit, the mountains of Colorado, or the deprived neighborhoods of New Orleans, the foundation's luminous logo, a small sun emerging from an outstretched hand, had become a symbol of hope. Elizabeth Morgan, once the queen of finance, was now a respected figure of social engagement. Her face, once known for its appearances in the economic pages of Wall Street Journal, now featured in awareness campaigns, alongside laughing children, moved parents, committed teachers, and caregivers. But Elizabeth refused any idolatry. She often said at conferences, I didn't change the world. It changed me, through a waitress, a smile, and a little hand that trembled as it grasped a spoon. Jasmine Williams. She had completed her nursing studies with honors. She specialized in pediatrics and community intervention. But above all, she had become the living soul of the foundation. She wasn't content to be an ambassador, she now led a national mentoring program for young caregivers from marginalized neighborhoods. Every time she spoke, her voice carried. Not by volume, but by truth. She was living proof that a life can be turned upside down, that dignity can be restored to those who, too often, are invisible. Families stopped her on the street to thank her. Young girls from Brooklyn said to her, "You look like me. So I can do it, too." And then there was Amelia. The blind little girl who was trembling with frustration one day in a restaurant had grown into a bright, lively teenager, curious about the world. Her blindness had never disappeared, but her inner light had exploded. Passionate about music, she played the piano with a moving sensitivity, creating compositions driven by pure emotion. She had learned to read Braille at a very young age, but what she loved most was listening to the voices. The stories. She remembered every intonation. And she loved to tell stories, too. She wanted to become a storyteller or a writer. To give a voice to those who didn't have one. Amelia considered Jasmine an aunt, a godmother, a friend. In her life, there was no line between blood and love. One evening at the Foundation's annual gala in Chicago, Amelia took the stage, guided by Jasmine. Dressed in a simple gown, her long braided hair falling over her shoulders, she gently placed her hands on the lectern. The room fell silent. And in a clear voice, she declared, "When I was little, I believed I could never live like other people. That I was a burden." Then a voice came, a soft song, a hand. It was Jasmine. And behind her, my mother learned to love differently. Today, thanks to them, I know that even without seeing, we can light up the world. The audience rose to its feet. Tears flowed. Families embraced. And in the room, Elizabeth and Jasmine, side by side, held hands. They were a chosen family. An alliance born from a spontaneous, almost trivial, but infinitely human gesture, feeding a little blind girl with the heart. That moment, etched in the past, had mapped out a new future, for them, for Amelia, and for hundreds of children they had never met, but whom they had grown to love before they even knew them.